You're smart, you're motivated, you want to do something big. You're on the verge of being a young boss, and we're going to help you get there. I'm your host, Isabel Barrino, and welcome to the Young Boss Podcast, where youth is your power. Have you ever trusted a Lamborghini mentor? This week, we're diving into the infospace. We chat about how preconceived notions can inhibit your growth and agility, especially as you get older, how to claw your way out of depression and find success, and the importance of investing in people and caring about their achievements. Also, why Stoicism can be an entrepreneur's superpower. We sit down with Zach Fisher of New Reach Education, an ed tech company that helps entrepreneurs and brands scale their online educational products for experts like Pace Morby and Jamil Damji. Let's dive in. Zach, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Excited to have you here, and I want to know everything about New Reach. So we're going to dive right in. What were you doing before you started New Reach? Tell me that.
How far back do you want me to go?
Like you were in sales, I heard, and
Yes.
That is a grind.
It is, especially door to door. So I just before doing sales, I was doing something called the E911 project. So I was nothing I said. I got the job from my grandma's neighbor when she came over for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Did that for like a year.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Got to travel to different like Caterpillar facilities across the country and run a mapping program on all their Ethernet ports to give it a name.
Okay.
Super exciting, but boring stuff. Then I wanted to make a little bit more money and moved to Chicago and, in the actual city downtown. So I took a sales job where I was selling windows, siding, roofing, doors, attic insulation, gutters, whatever you needed. If
residential?
It was on the outside, yeah.
Okay.
Residential only. If it was on the outside of the home, I would sell it to you.
Okay.
So I started in door to door, which was honestly like the best couple months of my life.
Rejection therapy.
Oh, it was so great. I loved it. But it's like trauma bonding with your friends in a van. You know?
It's the camaraderie.
Yeah, 100%.
Being like, they told me F you. They slammed the door in my face.
You play games with it.
Okay.
So what I started to do was just try to get fed.
Yeah.
That's all I tried to do was get a meal or a snack from every door I knocked on.
Okay.
And then my performance went up. I'm like, oh, there's something to this.
Okay.
So ended up getting promoted to the like in-home where you're actually giving the estimate and you're doing the one call close of a $20,000 house of windows.
Yeah. I got a $120,000 quote on my house.
It's a lot.
And I was pissed.
It's a lot. How many windows do you have?
A lot.
Okay.
I have a big house.
That makes sense too, especially if they're custom openings and you're not doing all picture windows. So.
Yeah, they're all weird shapes too,
Yeah.
I feel like. And I was just like, oh, I did not know windows are so expensive.
Yeah, they are. They are. If you want the right one, you can get cheap as well.
Yeah.
I don't want this to be like a window pitch
No.
podcast. It's
No.
probably not your audience, but yeah, make sure you're doing your research.
Okay, I will go back to get maybe you can kind of give me
I got you.
a quote. When you're working like a door-to-door sales job, there's not a lot of like impact that you're having. And I know your business now, it focuses, you feel good about the impact that you're having. Can you talk to me about that? And how did that make you feel?
Oddly enough, like my mental struggle came from when I was doing in-home sales versus like the door-to-door, which you would think.
Yeah.
Because door-to-door is such a hustle. It's
Yeah.
such a grind. It's very difficult. You deal with 99% rejection, so you have to make like fun games like getting fed out of it.
Yeah.
But it was consistent and I knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But when I was starting to do the in-home sales, I was on call.
Okay.
From 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., 6 days a week.
Whoa.
It was a rough schedule.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have like a life outside of it because I would like plan a dinner with my friends and then I'd get a text message that's
Can't
like,
go.
Bill and Sue want windows.
Okay.
And it gets very tough.
Yeah.
It gets very isolated. And that's when I was going through a lot of my like depression struggles and it's tough. Is in sales, it's such a results-oriented field.
Yeah.
And
it's easy to slip into depression, I think, in
easy
sales.
to slip into depression, especially if you're on that schedule, because
Yeah.
there's I felt, and maybe I felt like there was nothing I could do to get over that hump. Like when I was going through, let's say like a week where there's no sales.
Yeah.
And then you're just sitting at home by yourself, like sulking.
Feeling like you're just the worst.
What do I do? I'm terrible at this.
Yeah.
Did I make the right decision? But there's nothing I could do to be like, oh, I'm just going to go knock on doors.
Yeah.
Like I can't be active. I can't do anything. That's, I think, was the biggest struggle for me, that I felt out of control to the result. I could only get a text message or two a day, and they would tell me what to do, but I couldn't go out and like prospect.
Yeah.
Like if I was able to do that, fine. Like,
yeah,
I know volume is the way to get out of ruts.
It's a numbers game.
100%. So I think that would have changed a lot, but being in that situation with that schedule was very difficult for me. And that's when I reached out to my brother and started talking to him about doing sales for the stuff we were building.
So if someone listening is in that situation where they're like, I'm just stuck in this grind, I don't control my income, I don't control what's going on, what tips do you have for them? Like you had a lifeline of calling your brother.
100%.
What should they do?
Yeah, if you have that circle, absolutely lean on them, friends, family, parents. Like I promise you, they care.
Yeah.
There's somebody out there that, number one, cares and will help you through, or number two, is going through the same thing. There's a lot of power in that.
Yeah.
Goes back to trauma bonding,
Yeah.
right? Like,
yeah.
You're going through the same thing. You're going to come close, and you're going to understand. But take the power back. Don't let anything else control or allow the results to happen. Like for me, looking back, I was sitting on my ass for 5 hours a day.
Like, could you have been doing something?
Exactly. Could I have started an online business, or could I have taken sales calls for another job
during that time? Or
just like cold call people and buy a house. Like looking back and knowing what I know now, there are thousands of things that I could have done, but you don't see that. Sometimes you're blind to it. And especially when you like drop down into that state of like, oh my God, like what am I going to do? What am I doing? It's tough to see. Yeah. So that's why support is so important, because they'll pull you out of it.
Support is everything. And I love that you've mentioned so many of the people who've mentored you and been support for you along the way, because I do think it is so impactful. And I also think my memo of the year has been, no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to save you. Like if you want to start your own thing, if you want to quit your job, then do it, because there is no one who is going to save you. Right. And we're all running on different systems in our brain. And if you don't like the system you're running on, learn a new system. You have to start thinking a different way, choose a different path, do something different, or else you will continue to get the same results. And if you just continue to sit there and sulk and say, oh, why is my life so hard? Why does this job suck? If you ask yourself that question, you're going to get a certain result. When you ask, your brain's a computer. As soon as you learn how to program it differently, everything changes.
Absolutely.
And I think people really just genuinely think someone's going to come along and say, poof, like your life 100%. Is better now.
I thought so, right?
Right? We all do to some point, until you step up and say, oh, no one's coming.
100%. There's a great book. I forget who wrote it. It's just called Unfuck Yourself. That's a great book for someone in that situation.
Okay, add it. We've got to read it. I love that. Okay, so doing sales, then how did you even get into the infospace?
I got in the infospace because of my brother.
Okay.
Legend in the game. Like you go to a conference with him and people are like, oh my God, that's Nick Fisher.
Okay.
Like, how do you know him? I'm like, oh, that's my brother. Like, oh, cool.
How do you know him?
Yeah. So are you familiar with Clever Investor, Cody Sperber? So he was his CMO. He helped him scale to 30 million. And then he left to go build consulting.com with Sam Ovens.
Okay.
So that's like, he is the wizard. Yeah. I call him a unicorn because he like potentially could be real, but you don't really like see him. He's behind the scenes. He shows up every once in a while and you're like, did I actually just see him? Nick? Is he doing work here? So that's how I got into the scene, because I was doing the sales and not really enjoying it at the end, and I wanted a little change of pace. So Nick was just leaving consulting.com to partner with Josiah, who was the founder of Keegley with Jamil.
Okay.
And was building a product with him, and like, hey, we need someone to come help with the sales side of things. Cool, I'm there. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And that's how I got in the info space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell our listeners, what is New Reach?
New Reach is, I guess, like an ed tech company. It's a publishing house of sorts where we do the marketing, we do the sales, fulfillment, operations behind a brand. Mm-hmm. We look for an expert in a particular area, mainly like real estate, finance, any like make money online space.
Yeah.
We would be a good fit. We find a practitioner in that space. That's really important, not somebody who just did it in the past or just started, and then we start building.
Okay. So people come to you, or you seek out people?
Yes.
A little bit of both?
A little bit of both. It's mainly been referrals. So, Jamil and Pace in particular, those are our first two brands we've ever created with. They, are talking to people when they go speaking on stages and like, oh, like, how did you build this, this, and this? And then Pace is just like, go talk to Zach.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, easy. Very cool. So in this business, you can help a company scale in a way that they probably would have to spend a whole lot of time, energy, effort, money to do that. And really it's kind of a set it and you guys get to bear that weight for them.
Right. But I wouldn't say it's a set it and forget it completely, right? Because you still the face of the brand still has to be dialed in, still has to be doing the thing they're teaching on.
Yeah.
But we focus so much on community and the fulfillment side of things that we want the person to be involved in some way, shape, or form.
Okay.
So hypothetically, yes, it could be a set it and forget it, and we would do everything else, but that typically doesn't work as well. Yeah. And it doesn't end up being as fulfilling as well.
Okay. Makes sense. Now, I think how many people are on your team at this point?
At New Reach?
Yeah.
We have just over 100 W-2 and then another 100 1099, which are our sales reps.
How has that been to dial in hiring and what to look for
and
who to...
It's been fun.
Okay.
It's been really fun. Tough.
Yeah.
Difficult, stressful sometimes, but exciting.
Okay.
Right? Like you're building a team. It ends up at the beginning was just building a team of people I liked hanging out with.
Okay.
That's the trick of the trade.
Yeah.
If you enjoy hanging out with somebody, you're going to enjoy being in the same room, working together, solving problems.
Yeah.
And expanding from there. But it happened quick too.
Okay, tell me.
Yeah,
What's the time frame?
The time frame. So we had about 12 to 15 people in office the beginning of 2020. And by the end of the summer, we had about 60.
Wow.
And then beginning of next year, we were over 100.
Wow.
And a lot of that, most of it is due to Pace's popularity and how he grew up, how he blew up.
Yeah.
I think not only now, but he will be bigger than even Cardone, in my opinion.
Okay.
And this may be an unpopular opinion, but with somebody who, when you get to know Pace and who he is, it's a little bit different. He doesn't care about his own success.
Yeah.
It's weird to frame it like that. His success is tied to other people's success and why it works so well. And you hear like the power of the sub-2 community.
Yeah.
Because he pours into it. Like we have, I think, 40 Zoom calls a week.
Wow.
Not all with Pace, but it started with him and it's set up that way to where if you truly like want to dive in, people are going to be there holding your hand and leading you through the process, which is so cool to see people who have joined, got their first deal, and now are like really successful, but also wanting to pour back into the community.
Yeah. What does it take what do you think it takes to be successful in the info space?
Agility. I think that's really important. It takes, I don't know if you can swear here, so I'll say it takes giving a crap.
Yeah.
And it takes partnering or being with a doer.
Yeah.
So many times, that's why the infospace gets such a bad rap sometimes, is because the Lamborghini mentors pop up and, you're like, oh man, this is so cool. This guy made $10 million in 3 months. But, number one, did he? Number two, if he did, he's only been doing it for 3 to 6 months, so he doesn't know all of the nuance to how he or she got to where they are. It could have been a stroke of luck. We all need a stroke of luck every once in a while, right?
No shame on that.
100%. But you're not going to be able to necessarily pull people up with you
and duplicate it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and be able to say, does this work in a good market, bad market, in your town, in the next town? Like, what is really going on here?
Exactly. That's 100% it. So having somebody who's been doing it for a long time and is phenomenal at what they do will help in that situation. Okay. And then you get student success, and then you get a program that works and doesn't fizzle out.
Have you interviewed people who want to work with you and you've been like, actually, no, it's not a fit?
Absolutely.
Really?
Hundreds of times.
Really?
Hundreds of times, yes.
Okay, so what are your like criteria? What are you looking for?
Doing the business actively, like wanting to scale and not complacent. They give a crap about people, about impact. They're not necessarily money motivated in this aspect. They're using it as a platform and a vehicle to help others. Okay. It's not something that will turn into like, oh, I'm only making, $500K a year in my day-to-day business, but this info product, I can make $10 million a year. Like, we don't want someone like that. It's not going to work.
Okay.
Those are the big three.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Hey, why waste your time doom scrolling when you could be learning how to raise capital, manage a team, or be a boss? It's time to level up and hit that subscribe button for the Young Boss Podcast. Now, back to the show. Tell me about like some mistakes and failures you have made in business, because I'm assuming you've had to determine if these people are right or wrong because you've had some potentially wrong ones maybe.
Right, we have. That's how that list got formed in the first place. We've partnered with people before. We launched our first 3 courses, astral flipping, sub 2, and credit stacking, and they were successes. And we're like, oh, cool. Let's start like building and like going crazy.
Yeah.
And we tried to create 3 at one time.
Okay.
That was too much.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, they weren't the right product for the market fit.
Okay.
We had tried to created a couple different courses, one for real estate agents, and we partnered with one of the best real estate agents and I think he's a broker as well, in the whole country, like billions of dollars of transactions. And we're like, this is going to be sick. Like, everyone knows him. Everyone loves him. He's so successful.
Yeah.
But then we backtrack. We're not able to necessarily get the time that we need, especially being a real estate agent. There's no schedule.
He's hustling.
You're hustling. Yeah. You're here, you're there.
Yep.
So that's one aspect of it. And then the other aspect is that real estate agents didn't want to buy a course. And we found that out.
Yep.
There's a lot of, if you're a real estate agent, don't hate me. There's a lot of ego involved in being an agent. And I think that's a good thing.
They need it.
They need it. But with that being said, you get a lot of people who aren't successful yet, but think they're going to learn everything they need from their team lead or their brokerage. But a lot of times you're just learning like laws and regulations and ways for them to not get sued. And they're like, yeah, you're great. Go do your thing. So people who joined were great, like had a ton of success, but we couldn't get enough people in the door for it to work.
I want to talk a little bit because I feel like in the info space, everyone's afraid of the big letters, right? FTC, SEC, all this different stuff. Do you guys keep up to date on that, or is that the responsibility of the guru, the face, the brand, or is that a shared responsibility?
Great question. I would say shared responsibility because,
it's everyone's job.
Yeah, you're an extension of each other in some way, shape, or form. But we have a QA team and a lawyer that's constantly going through everything we produce.
Okay.
Everything we've sent out,
Yeah.
Monitoring sales calls to make sure nothing is non-compliant or sketch or even like potentially to become sketchy.
Yes.
So it's an active effort every single day to make sure everything's above board and kosher.
Okay. I love that. I think it's so important because man, is it tough. And I do think every time I'm in masterminds, they'll say, oh, did you see that this big thing came out? And every time it's like, oh my God, we're all going to get shut down.
Right.
And then you read and you're like, oh, actually that doesn't apply to me. Like we're good.
We're
But it is like, there's just those big fears of what's going to go on. What are they saying? And, oh, we have to prove every single tiny little thing. Okay, well, we can prove it. Like it's right there. We've got it. But there's a lot of people who are selling stuff that they cannot prove. They have fake reviews and testimonials and this, that, and the other. And it is a scary game that they're playing because they will get shut down one way or the other. Either they're going to get found out by the public, trial by the public, or trial by the gov, whatever you want.
Shame.
Whichever one you want. Okay, obviously the podcast is called Young Boss. You are very youthful yourself. Do you think that youth can be an advantage or a disadvantage in business?
I always say it's an advantage.
Okay, tell me more.
I think it gets more disadvantageous the older you get as you're an entrepreneur because of all of the experience you have. A lot of times you get stuck in the mud. It's like it has to be this way, or I've seen this in the past and this is how I'm going to react. But in the grand scheme of things and the reality of our situations, especially in the info space, it's so dynamic.
Yeah.
Things change. You have to move quickly. You have to try new things. You have to be
agile, like you said.
Agile, exactly. So I think it's absolutely an advantage. I think it's a necessity to have some sort of youth in your organization because they can be that like breath of fresh air, I suppose.
I love that. Yeah. Okay. What is like a big mistake you've made in business? A day that you were just like, oh, not a good day.
The cliche is, don't make mistakes. I have learning experiences. So I have plenty of those.
Okay.
The biggest, I'm just going to go as a company as a whole.
Okay.
I think our biggest mistake was to get too corporate. We were growing very quickly and we had to set in some kind of structure because it was just, essentially like 4 leaders going through and just we were all siloed off, kind of working together, communicating and building. And with that, you can't ever replace or like duplicate anything you're doing. So in order for us to be able to ascend and like kind of pull the strings a little bit and grow as a company, if we wanted to acquire new brands, if we wanted to build anything, we had to.
Yeah.
And I hated it at first, I will say. I am not a Sheets person. Okay. I am not a project management software person. I just like to go and do things.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a shock initially. And it helped us initially. It helped us get from a point where we were comfortable and excited to double our revenue in just about a year.
Wow.
And it was just from implementing processes and making our operations a little bit more airtight.
Yep.
So it is very important. But then we saw to get from that point to the next level that we wanted to accomplish, we were very slow. It becomes a hierarchy where one person has to ask somebody, who has to ask another director, who has to ask somebody, and then it's a 3-week process to get approved. And you're like,
which is what everyone hates about corporate.
Exactly.
Right.
And then that's made us be a little bit more introspective. Look in the mirror. Crap. We we need to recalibrate a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, because things do have to move fast. And when you start small, things are moving so fast.
So it's so fun.
So fun. And it's just like changes are made. You weren't there for that meeting. Well, we're doing this now. And it is the chaos. It's the fun in the chaos. But then when you do get so big, there's so many people involved. There does need to be some form of checks and balances, but it sucks because it slows it down.
It does.
And there has to be some sort of happy medium.
You'll get there eventually, right? It's the pendulum. Like everything swings to one extreme and it eventually comes back.
Yeah.
And it's necessary.
Yes. Yes. Okay. What's some of the best advice you've ever received about business?
I don't know if this qualifies as a business question, but it's a principle that I've applied to business. It's worrying about what you can control and letting go of everything else.
Everything.
And it's a powerful thing once you understand that and you can accomplish that. It's difficult, but it's powerful.
Okay, I love it. What are 3 tactical tips for young bosses who are starting their own business?
Find partners who complement you, who aren't the same exact person as you, but have similar vision and goals and like morality to them.
Yeah.
I think that's important as well. Just do it. Push forward, and then figure out the consequences later. This doesn't apply to, it applies to 95% of things. And then the last advice I would say is make sure you know your P&L.
Okay, numbers.
If you don't know that and you're just flying by, admittedly, I didn't first year.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is why we do things, or this is why I need to do this.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Okay.
It seems very simple.
Yeah.
I didn't know it, but I also talk to a lot of entrepreneurs who don't necessarily know how to read their books, and I think that's dangerous.
It is dangerous. Yeah. And I do think if that's not your strength and you're going to start a business, it's easy to be like, someone else will take care of it.
100%. Or I'll hire that person. Or even if things are going well, it's hard to not just be like, well, they're going well. Why do I need to look at it? Yeah, exactly. I'm profitable, right? Yeah, cool.
We're good. I got my check. You got your check. We're good. But so there are so many times where it's like, no. There has to be the sacred things where you have to check that. You have to be on top of that because it's not going to check itself.
Right.
And things fall out quick. And if it gets in the wrong person's hands or something happens, you are the only one who will really be able to have that true eye to say, this is not okay.
100%.
So that does get challenging. I'm glad you said that. Okay, I want to ask some quick fire questions. Okay. What's one book that every entrepreneur should read?
All right. So do you want business application or do you want just kind of like an abstract one?
Abstract.
Okay. This is going to revert back to the answer I just gave, which is focusing on what you can control.
Yeah.
The Manual.
The
by
Manual.
Epictetus.
Okay.
Yeah. Very, very stoic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you into Stoicism?
I am. That's changed a lot of how I used to overreact.
Yeah.
I used to go like one extreme. I'd be angry. I'd be like super happy.
At work and in life?
Yes, both. I think it stemmed from sports and competition, and it's like, oh, if I don't win, then like, what's life?
How'd you hone it in?
Jamil, moving here and being able to like create this friendship with him and Pace. He is very into Stoicism, and he's like, bro, you need to read this book, and it's the most simple read in the universe. Okay. It could take you like an hour. Okay. But it changed the way that I view things. It's changed the way I react to things, and it's almost like you're outside of your body looking at yourself, and you're like, why are you reacting like that? That has no bearing whatsoever of what you're doing. Yeah. And it allowed me to be me. Yeah. And just do things and not care, because I own what I do, and I know I'm good at what I do. But if I worry about what Joe is doing or what Susan's doing, these are not real people, by the way, then you think more. Yeah. You're going to be stuck in the mud. You're not going to be able to, you're going to be like reacting to things. Yeah. And I think as a leader, it's important to just be centered and not overreact. No one's going to want to come to you with problems if you immediately start screaming and, what did you do this? Why are you doing that? Yeah. So that's my long, elaborate way of just saying, read that book.
Okay.
It's good.
I love it. Actually, this is the second time today that we've talked about reactiveness. And I actually think that that is one of the disadvantages of being youthful in business, is that you haven't had time to develop that skill of mindfulness and saying, pause, wait, I'm not going to go with that gut response, right? And a lot of people, when they're older, they do learn this skill over time, right? Through it being beaten out of them, or through taking the time to actually learn and conquer that thing. And I think I know I used to pop off in meetings, right? When I wasn't the boss, but I would go crazy, and I was like, oh, sorry. Like, and I would just flippantly apologize. And then as soon as I became the boss, I had like a sit down with myself and was like, you can't do that. Yeah. Like, you can't do that. They won't respect you. You are not getting the reaction that you actually want out of them. And you're not helping anyone in this room. And you're not being a person that they can come to. And none of those are serving you. So don't pop off. And I just started to learn to bite my tongue, or be more, let things happen, and realize it's not about me. Let's think about it. Let's react later. Yep. Let's have our moment. I'm still reactive at home when I come home to my partner. You know, I'm like, oh my God, this happened. It's the Italian in me. I have to have some reaction.
It's still healthy to, you know, have your vent session.
Yes, but a time and a place.
Exactly.
Because at work, I was just like, this isn't helping me.
Yep.
And if I didn't have that check-in with myself, I think I would have had a lot more turnover with the people, because they would have eventually said, okay, I'm not going to be spoken to like that. And somebody would have put me in my place eventually.
Yeah. And you're not creating the right culture, right?
No.
Like you don't want anyone, let's say you have a team of 50 people. You don't want 50 people running around screaming at each other.
No.
You want to have fun.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So I think I love that. Okay. Who is one of your biggest role models?
I'm going to say my brother, for sure. Like, without him, I would never be in the space that I am.
Yeah.
The role that I have, I probably would have just been comfortable with a 9-to-5 job. He was the guy for, like, even through high school, he was getting books, like personal development books. I'm like, why are you reading that? Like, Sports Illustrated is right there. Like, that's super entertaining. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Why are you, Ray Dalio? What the heck?
Yeah.
Who is that? Yeah. So I thank him as much as I can for everything he's done for me. But without him, I'm not me.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. Would you rather scale a business fast or slow?
Fast. Fast. Absolutely.
What aspect of your business brings you the most joy?
Culture, team, people.
Okay. Yeah. I love it. Biggest strength in business? Culture,
team, people. It's if you have a good culture, you're able to create impact. And that's what we're all trying to accomplish at the end of the day.
I love it. What does being a young boss mean to you?
Not thinking you're crazy for thinking too big, and just going for it. Just make mistakes and go for it.
Yeah.
I don't want to butcher the quote, but there's a good quote from Sandlot that says something similar.
Okay, Sandlot.
The mom to the son.
Okay. We got to find that quote. We got to add it in.
It's like, go have fun, make mistakes, get dirty. Like, something along those lines.
Okay.
The Sandlot, one of the greatest movies of all time.
Truly. So. It made us all scared of the dog behind the fence.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Culture. You've mentioned that culture is strong, and I know that's something you really take a lot of importance in. Talk to me about building a culture that you actually like and you actually want to work in and other people want to work in.
It's a question I love. And it starts, I think, with your vision and where you want to go as a person, as a company. Once you figure out who you are and what you want to accomplish, it becomes a lot easier. Otherwise, you're just throwing spaghetti at a wall hoping it sticks. Yeah. And that's when a lot of overturn happens. Yep. And that gets not messy, as fun and messy. And I started, honestly, I got lucky. Okay. I started just bringing on people that I love to be with. Like, oh, like I could picture myself having a beer with this person, or I could picture myself working a 20-hour weekend with this person and not like hate myself for it. So like, that's how I started.
Yeah.
And it worked out well.
Yeah.
But then when I really dove into why that was, it was because their fit was so perfect. And I started learning about like Enneagrams and personality types, and with what we were trying to accomplish, which was impact and helping people get into real estate and get their first deal and potentially like change their life, change their like their kids' lives, their grandchildren's lives, whatever you wanted to accomplish. We had to help you get there, right? You don't just hand somebody a course or video modules and say, go do it. It works. Trust me. Figure it out. Doesn't work like that. We're humans.
Yeah.
And we need some guidance sometimes, or we need somebody to tell us, just like, you're overanalyzing. Shut up. Go do it.
Yeah.
So you have to build a team with people who understand that. And I found out after the fact that pretty much everyone I hired initially was a 2-wing 3 Enneagram, which is the helper achiever.
Okay, you didn't even know when you were hiring.
Exactly.
Okay.
I was like every person besides like one.
Okay. Is that what you are?
I am.
Okay, so you're hiring. It makes sense. You're hiring people you like.
100%. I was hiring 5 people I like, but for what we wanted to accomplish, what my vision was.
It worked.
It worked perfectly.
Okay.
And then I kind of reverse engineered and found out why that was. I'm glad it happened.
Yeah.
And it worked out so well. But then, you start building a culture. Like, this is a culture of people who our only goal is to help people who join our education get to the level that they want to get to. And you have to care.
Yeah.
This is not a job. It's not a 9 to 5 clock in, clock out. What did you do today? I did this, and then now you're dialed out.
Right.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
You have to care. You have to give a crap. And like take an investment in their life.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cool to see like everyone in an organization. We celebrate like wins of people in our community.
Yeah.
More than we celebrate like promotions. It's weird. That not entirely true, but it feels like that sometimes, because you get inspired, and it re-energizes you if you're depleted, and it's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
And you get to like go out and celebrate and have dinner with your team and enjoy each other's company and talk about like all of this like impact. Like, we have thousands and thousands of people who have done their first deal and are able to see this new future for themselves. So it's pretty dope.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that culture is just, people think it's like very daunting and hard to create and build, but a lot of times it's natural. It's already happening. Like you said, you just hired these people and the culture's happening. You didn't have to put core value on the wall. No. It was innate in you guys. And I am notorious for saying, like, if you don't work with friends and family, you're working with enemies and strangers.
100%.
So I love working with friends and family. And I pretty much only hire people who I like vibe with, who I want to hang out with, because it's the same thing. And I also love another thing you said, and this has been a theme lately of a lot of the small business owners I talk to, where they say, I'm no longer saying, sure, it's make your own hours, sure, it's work from home, it's this, is that. They're like, no, I'm telling them the worst case scenario of what this is. You're giving up your life. Yeah. You don't have, like, you're doing this, you're doing that, and like painting the worst picture. And if they still want the job, okay, great, because it's actually going to be a lot better than that.
100%.
But stop lying and saying it's all these things that it maybe isn't. Go for what is the most extreme version of this. And if you're not around with that, if you don't want this, then you don't want it. And it's okay. That's not a fit. But 100%. I want someone who's going to work so hard and understands that why we're working hard. They're not afraid to work hard.
Right.
And I think that's very different than what we're seeing with a lot of the younger generations saying, like, well, I want paid time off and this, and when are my vacations? And if you're asking those questions up front, that's fine. It's just not the right fit to work with me.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. I see that so much more over the last, like, since COVID, honestly. Because COVID was a situation where we were all forced in that situation.
Yeah.
And it's comfortable and it's flexible, and honestly, you don't work as hard.
Yeah.
Like, and some people can, obviously, but if you're doing laundry and folding clothes,
are you really?
You're not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So that's 100%. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
It's something that I look for as well.
Yeah. You've got it. I think as a business owner, you have to be honest about what you're offering.
Absolutely.
And the more honest you are in those interview processes with yourself and with them, the better it goes and the easier hiring becomes.
Yeah, and you'll attract the people who want to be there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty exciting when all of that clicks and all of it's firing on all cylinders.
Yes.
And
you get a good new hire and it's like, yes.
You're like, oh my gosh, like that's the greatest thing in the world, when you have a new hire and they've been there for a week and you have people coming up to you like, oh my God, I love her.
Yeah.
She's so great. Where did you find her?
Yeah. You're like, yes.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here. Yeah. If people want to learn about New Reach or find you, where do they find you?
I'm not really like too active on social media, but at ZR Fisher on Instagram. I post twice a year.
Okay.
So look forward to that.
It's like a special pink moon or something. It's a rarity.
And you'll love it. Occasionally I do throw a cooking reel on there. So if you like cooking, but also like to wait 3 months before you see your next video, I'm the right person to follow.
Okay, I love it. Yeah. And New Reach, where do we find out more about that?
NewReachEducation.com.
Okay.
We have an Instagram, I believe it's New Reach Co.
Okay.
At New Reach Co. Those are the spaces.
Awesome. Thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Thanks for listening to another episode of Young Boss with your host, Isabel Garino. Be sure to like, share, and follow on Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And let us know, is culture easy or hard for you to build in your own business? We want to hear from you. Remember, youth is your power.